Irashaimase! Hello and welcome to Fataris' Kitchen. I'm your host, Chef Fataris. It's time once again for Shoot 'em Up Saturday, and on the menu this Saturday we have Wings of Blue Star, a new retro-styled shoot 'em up featuring 2D hand-drawn art. What kind of taste will it have? Let's get cooking and find out. From developer Shinu Real Arts, Wings of Blue Star released on Steam in October of 2020. This is the first time I've covered the title, however. I covered it back in August of 2018 for its Kickstarter campaign. And I do feel the game has evolved a fair bit since then. Overall thoughts? Well, it's one I feel is worth checking out, but it still could use just a little bit more time to bake. Diving into the main menu, there are a couple of main modes we can play the game in. There's the story mode, which features visual novel-like scenes between the various stages, or the arcade mode, which is a more straight-up shoot-'em-up experience. The game does support a two-player mode, which is a neat feature to have, and in the bonus mode, there are some extra modes you can play, such as the boss rush. There's also a sound test, and also a gallery. And all of that is unlocked, well, initially in the Risk Shop. Here you spend Risk points, which you earn throughout your gameplay, to unlock those modes, as well as the additional pieces of art once you've unlocked the gallery. So, jumping into the arcade mode, there are two ships you can play the game as. There's the Blue Wing with the pilot Aya, or the Altair with the pilot Zrock. So in my Kickstarter campaign video, I played as the Blue Wing, as that was the ship that was available in that campaign. And for the most part, the main basics of that ship are the same. So if you're interested in seeing a little bit more of how that ship works, I encourage you to check out that video. So for our purposes today, we'll be playing the Altair. After selecting our ship, we're taken to this launch sequence, which does a good job of showing off the hand-drawn art of the game. So we see the Altair launching from our station, which is under attack by this alien AI, which up to this point has been helping humanity develop, but as things often go, now it's kind of turned against humanity, as they don't want to be turned into these synthetic beings without free will. That's kind of the basis for our story. Now, especially since the game does have a story mode, there's a lot more to it than that, but having a basis for your setting, it can be important. So as far as game type is concerned, Wings of Blue Star is a relatively straightforward horizontal scrolling shoot 'em up. The Altair is a little limited initially for firepower. We just have our base shot, but the shot itself is fairly powerful, as not only does the shot deal damage when it initially impacts the enemies, but there's also these sparks and kind of like an explosion that goes off when it hits the enemy that deals additional damage, making this the far more powerful of the two ships you can choose, although it's not as powerful defensively. Our main weapon will ultimately level up over time, so the more we use it, the more damage we deal. It levels up the weapon to level 2 and then ultimately level 3. In addition to our shot, it is possible through power-ups to obtain turrets, which basically are kind of like options on like either side of our ship. And these turrets on the Altair fire lasers. On the Blue Wing, they act more as or rather they fire as a cannon turret. And those on the Blue Wing, you can actually aim the turrets in a 360 degree radius around the ship, so you can rotate them all the way around the ship. On the Altair, these turrets fire lasers, and they act as, well, the best way I can think about them is wipers. So you can wipe from the front of the screen to the back and back to the front again. It's really great for crowd control, as you can control various vectors of the screen. If enemies are coming from the top, if they're coming from below, if they're coming from behind you, you can handle all those various scenarios. Once we have the Altair fully powered up, The lasers on the turrets also power up in addition to the shots. This is a very formidable ship and will take out most of the enemies we come across very quickly, including bosses. So if you're looking to shorten the boss fights, then this is definitely the ship to take. A couple things to note about our movement. So as we fire, it basically activates focus movement, where we move slower while we're firing than if we're letting off our fire. You can see the ship moves a little bit faster that way than when we are actually firing. There's also the hitbox for the ship is displayed. It's that spinning circle in the middle of the fighter itself, letting you know what areas you can safely pass between the enemy bullet patterns, as especially bosses do kind of lean towards bullet hell patterns. So there are some various power-ups that we're picking up throughout the course of our gameplay. The power-ups matter quite a bit more for the Blue Wing. On the Altair, really only one of the items we pick up actually acts as a true power-up, and everything else is just for point value. On the Blue Wing, the red power-up with the triangle in the middle, this one here, is our shot upgrade, whereas on the Altair it just upgrades over use. This blue plus gives us the add-ons, our turrets, and then there's also the orange power-up, which gives the Blue Wing its shield, but both the weapon power-up and the shield power-up for the Altair just act as points. So as far as points, there are also the blue tokens or medals, which are worth 100 points, and then if we use our laser, which I haven't actually mentioned yet, we can cancel bullets and get the plus 200 tokens, as well as score other big points through just comboing and chaining using our special weapon. So I guess against this, our first stage boss would be a good time to show that off. So there are special weapons for both of the two ships. On the Altair, we have this laser which charges up over time. The longer you charge it, the longer the laser will last. Once we let that beam go, it will deal heavy damage and cancel most enemy shots that it encounters. There is a cooldown associated with it, however, so once you've fired it, it will take a moment to come back online, as it were. It does give you both a visual indication and an audio indication that it's ready, though, and with just a little bit more effort, the first stage boss is down. So there were a couple other things we were collecting in the course of the stage. So there are these puzzle pieces which we get this Patima bonus for. If you collect all 6 of the pieces, then you get a perfect bonus and additional risk score. What is this risk? This risk is the currency we spend in the store to both unlock additional modes, unlock additional credits, and unlock additional pieces of art. So the second stage does a good job of showing off a couple things I really like about this game. So you see right here, there's those 4 ships that are positioned on the surface of this planet, and then as we fly overhead, they take off. I really like small little details to that, especially in 2D games where you've got extra effort put into the art itself just to create that effect. In addition to that, as we move the ship around, you'll notice that you see these thrusters firing from all the different vectors as we move forward and back. Just a little bit of a nice artistic touch, which kind of shows off how a fighter would behave, especially in the vacuum of space. You wouldn't have any control surfaces to move the ship around. Rather, you would need control the ship through the use of like vector thrusters, and well, that's kind of like the idea. So I do appreciate just those little extra touches that you can find in hand-drawn 2D games. And that's basically Wings of Blue Star served up for your enjoyment. So as far as minus flavors are concerned, so this one isn't really all that fair, but I'm still going to bring it up. The game itself still feels like it's a work in progress. There have been quite a few bugs and errors that I've encountered, including up to this point an error which wouldn't allow me to get past the 4-stage boss. When I defeated the boss, it would just crash out. But those errors are, like once reported, are quickly handled by the developer. So if you do pick up the game and you encounter like bugs, I would highly suggest reporting them, as the developer has been really good about getting those particular problems taken care of. And then this other issue is something that I feel is a little more unique to the particular fighter that I've chosen, the Altair, which between the Altair and the Blue Wing, this is definitely my preferred of the two ships. But it has to do with the power-ups. So for the Blue Wing, you've got 3 different power-ups that work for the ship. For the Altair, there's just a single power-up that works for the ship. And I think that's a little disappointing, as everything you pick up is just solely for points. It's great from like trying to build a high score, but it's a little disappointing in that it's like all it is just points. So it would have been nice to see the weapon power-ups and the shield power-ups put to other uses for the Altair. But as far as the plus sides are concerned, the plus flavors rather, so I do quite enjoy the 2D hand-drawn art that this game has. It's got art style that is definitely its own, and everything like just happens to have a pretty consistent feel to it. There were a few issues that I had with the original Kickstarter and the demo of that, in which I felt like it was hard to tell what you could and couldn't pass between, but the developer's done a great job of fixing that, in that a lot of times you'll get like danger warnings when you're about to encounter something that you can't pass through. I also appreciate that there is 2 different ships and their playstyles are radically different, including the difference between the ships themselves. You also have some difference in scoring between them, as you can use the beam cannon on the Altair for big points in your bonuses, whereas if you're playing as the Blue Wing, you activate your chain and get your big points from using the shield on the front of the ship to deal damage that way. And then the game is definitely a great feeling, retro-styled shoot-'em-up with a fair bit of challenge, especially in the later stages. The game gets particularly difficult. So, especially once all the various bugs have been handled, this is a game that especially if you're a fan of retro-styled horizontal scrollers, that I highly encourage you check out if you're a fan of horizontal scrollers. But this is one that I feel it would be worth your time to check out. If nothing else, at least stop by the Steam page and give the demo a try. I'll include a link to the Steam page in the description below. So that'll just about wrap up this week's episode of Shoot 'em Up Saturday. As always, I want to thank you so much for joining me this week, and I look forward to seeing you again next week.